What's the economic agenda of the progressive left? Recently, Mayor Bill de Blasio spelled it out very clearly. Here it is.
To profoundly change the distribution of resources. I like to say very bluntly, our mission is to redistribute wealth. A lot of people bristle at that phrase. That is, in fact, the phrase we need to use.
Wealth redistribution, not just income redistribution, but wealth redistribution. Now, how do we think about this? I want to focus on the concept of redistribution, because redistribution implies there has been some original distribution. But how does wealth get around in the first place? It's not distributed by anybody, it's created by people. So when people talk about redistribution, they're not redistributing, they're confiscating and distributing at their own whim. Several years ago, the Nobel Prize-winning economist Amartya Sen, a fellow Indian,
from this focus on open-minded reasoning, there is much that economists too can learn. The subject stands to lose a lot from dogmatic beliefs of one kind or another.
In his book on justice, gets to the core of these principles. He talks about 3 children fighting over a flute. He says that one of them, Carla, made the flute. A second one, Anne, believes that she is the best flute player and therefore deserves the flute. And a third, Bob, who is the disadvantaged one. Bob has never had a flute, and therefore he claims that he's the most deserving recipient of the flute. And essentially Amartya Sen goes, these people all sort of have a claim. He goes, the claim of Carla is the libertarian claim of ownership by creation. The claim of Anne is the utilitarian claim that it would maximize happiness to enable the person who plays the flute best to have the flute. And of course, Bob's claim, you can call it the sort of leftist claim or the progressive claim, the victimology claim. And Amartya Sen's point is, to whom should we assign the flute? And I want to zoom in here on the word we, because you notice what's really going on is Amartya Sen has silently transferred ownership of the flute from the person who made the flute to the state. To whom should we? Somehow he suddenly has a say in who gets the flute. But let's think about it. How did the flute come to be in the first place? Carla made the flute. It's Carla's flute. Absent Carla, there wouldn't be a flute. So there's no question of redistributing the flute. Flutes don't fall from the sky. Flutes aren't allocated in some original distribution. Flutes are created just as wealth is created. And what de Blasio means by wealth redistribution is confiscating wealth from the people who created it, giving it to people who didn't create it in exchange for their votes. That's the progressive ploy.